So in this segment, we're going to be discussing Tory MP not understanding, this is the Culture Secretary, not understanding what bias means. And this is hilarious because when she's asked basic questions, she just can't answer them. It's good work from Kay Burley, but this is embarrassing from this Tory MP.
Do you think the BBC is biased?
Well, I am looking at this from the point of view of the Culture Secretary.
Yeah, and that's why I'm asking you.
And
so do you think they're biased?
And the evidence shows that there is a perception of bias in relation to the BBC.
What do you think? Do you think?
So, what she's arguing is people perceive the BBC as being biased, right? And so if people perceive something, it doesn't mean it's true. I can perceive the sky to be red. It doesn't mean the sky's red. And that's one of the things, like, it is dumb. This report, the report isn't dumb because it gets people's opinions on things. But again, like, people's opinions on things change fairly often.
As Culture Secretary, that the BBC is biased?
I think that on occasion it has been biased, yes.
In relation to what?
Well, this report isn't about incident.
So it's a nice deflection there. Asked about example, deflect. This report isn't about that. Okay.
But we have seen recently that it's had to apologise for its own reporting, for example, in relation to the attack in the hospital in Israel, so in Gaza.
What's the difference between mistake and bias, surely?
Well, there is a perception.
That is true. There is a mistake between a mistake and bias, and I think a lot of people made mistakes on their coverage of the situation in Gaza. So there is a difference between the two things.
Amongst the public, that the BBC is biased, and as Culture Secretary, it's important that I look at that. I must say,
this is up there with Nadine Dorris thinking that public money goes to Channel 4.
These are issues that I have discussed with the BBC. They've taken on board.
Yeah, but I'm asking you about the evidence of bias. Where's the evidence?
The evidence of bias is what audiences believe is the content of the BBC and
but that's
how
perception, that's not evidence.
Which is true. It is perception. It's how you perceive something. And I know people say perception is reality, but the reality of the situation is it's not true in this case.
That's perception.
That is evidence. That is evidence. Impartiality.
You see, kind of brain is trying to figure out how to answer the question without sounding like a complete moron, and she just can't do it.
It's about perception of the things that are being broadcast by the BBC, and the evidence in relation to that perception is that
perception and evidence are different things.
The evidence from Ofcom, having done studies and questionnaires of the public,
and the people think like loads of media outlets are biased. They think Sky News is biased. They think GB. We know GB News is biased. The public perceive a lot of different things. Is that
the BBC's ratings in relation to impartiality have gone down, and I and the BBC think that there is more that the BBC can do in order to improve that.
You had Robbie something, can't remember his name. He worked for Theresa May, right? He was breathing down the necks of the Newsnight staff, according to Lewis Goodall. I remember I covered this before, saying, he's watching you and all of this nonsense, right? If that's not examples of the BBC being biased towards Tories or being pushed in an editorial direction, I don't know what is. So you can make this argument, the people perceive the BBC as being biased. True, I do. I do, definitely, especially in the early 2010s when they were pro-austerity and pushing a lot of nonsense. But the fact remains, like, a perception of being biased doesn't mean much. So this report is kind of pointless when you think about it, unless you're talking about specific examples.
Which other broadcasters are you investigating? Which other broadcasters do you feel potentially are not impartial?
The reason we've done this review is because the BBC is in a special position.
Yeah, but I'm asking you which other broadcasters you think are not impartial.
My job as the Culture Secretary is to...
it's just a lot of nonsense. So the BBC is in a special position, that's true. But this report is kind of nonsense. It's just public opinion, really. And her arguments are really, really bad. She might as well have just said,
"My source is that I made it the fuck up."
Honestly, because that's basically what she did. It was ridiculous. But anyways, we've covered BBC's bad reporting in the past. It does have flaws. There was, I think, its own internal report which said that they don't understand. Some of the journalists don't understand economics, which is true. That's why you have Kamal Ahmed and Ben Chu, who do a lot of the economic stuff, because they have expertise in in economics. People like Laura Toonsberg, she's got no actual academic expertise or any real knowledge of economics. She's talking about maxing out credit cards and all this other nonsense. Genuinely just baffling stuff here. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully you perceive the channel to actually be good.